Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm Fabiana Bacchini, Executive Director with the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation. CPBF is a charitable organization, and our mission is to support and educate families of premature babies. This Preemie Chat series is one of the many initiatives we have to bring information for NICU families and healthcare professionals. Here, every Friday, we talk with experts, researchers, and parents who share with us their experience and knowledge. Also on our website, canadianpreemies.org, parents will find all kinds of resources and support. And today we're going to talk about the role of a postpartum doula in providing care and guidance, assisting the birth parent recovery, and supporting other parents involved in the child's life. And I have here joining me from Oakville, Ontario, Sherri Phillips. Since 2014, Sherri has worked for private and non-profit. Sherri, can you?
Good morning.
Sherri, your audio, yes, maybe just lower your volume a little bit.
Okay, is it messing it up?
Yeah, it was a little bit loud, but that's perfect now. Thank you. So Sherri has worked for private and non-profit childcare in our clients' homes as a registered early childhood educator. She has cared for children for just a few days old to 12 years. She found her calling for all things infant when a past client from a childcare asked Sherri to be on call for the birth of her child. Remembering the ups and downs of raising her two babies, Sherri agreed to this new job because she felt every family needs support during this new life transition. While caring for babies in clients' home, Sherri realized that parents not only need care for their baby, but parental guidance and care that would nurture the well-being of the whole family. To obtain a better understanding of the physical and mental changes occurring to new parents, she started her journey in becoming a postpartum doula. In 2020, Sherri founded Baby Helping Hands, a company that supports, informs, and connects parents during the first 8 months of a baby's life. Sherri, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
When I read your bio, it really makes me feel there's so many good in the world and so much work of people like you devoted to help families. It really makes me feel so grateful that there are people like you in the world supporting families, especially NICU families. So when I talked to you the first time, I was pretty amazed to learn about postpartum doula because I never heard about it. I thought doulas only helped parents during a little bit pre-birth, but during birth, and I didn't know there was this whole new field that would come to the homes. So I wanted to start asking you this very big picture, to give us a big picture actually. What is a postpartum doula and your role after birth?
So many times clients will contact us before the baby is born or after the baby is born. If it's prior to, what we do is we create a customized postpartum plan. And what that looks like is that we sit down and we find out what your actual needs are and what your concerns are. And we ask about allergies and health. We listen to your birth story if you've given birth already, so that we truly understand the experience that you've had and what's happening with your recovery. Postpartum doulas are educated in the whole birthing process so that we know the different things that could have occurred to your body, so that we can help you with the recovery. But we're also there for the babies and for the partners. We support all families. It could be two moms, two dads, a mom and a dad. It could be an adoption. It could be a foster. All those different families we support. We support, as I said, both the physical. So we help the birth parent in recovery. And in the case of preemie families, we would support the birth parent before the preemie has even come home. Because you've gone through a traumatic experience, you might need help with your recovery. And we're also, before the baby comes home, we help with the partner. There's a lot going on. Both parents can be absolutely exhausted. There's a lot of prep because all of a sudden this baby has just shown up and you weren't ready for it for that particular day. So there might be nothing done in the room, in the birth room at all, that you want set up in the baby's room or even your room, because many have bassinets in their own bedrooms to have them close by and within reach. And, you know, prepping for food. So we help with the physical. We help with the emotional support, as I said, just because it's both physically and mentally draining what you have gone through. And then we provide informational support. So that might look, I've got examples here. This is a chart I've got for breastfeeding, how many diapers, wet diapers we should have, how many proper soiled diapers. I've got this great resource that's for dads. It's called 24 Cribside Assistance. Just kind of gives you, I mean, we can read all of the books, but once we're in it, it's just nice to have these resources available to you. We also, in that informational support, we do both in person and virtually. So the in person, what that might look like, we might show you how to swaddle a baby, or we might give you advice. I've had clients say to me, every time I put my baby in a bathtub, it cries. What am I doing wrong? So we do a lot of hands-on. Postpartum doulas are also educated on all the different types of feeding. We don't have preference for breastfeeding, bottle feeding. I've had clients that have had to do some tubing feeding where they attach the tubes to their breasts. So postpartums know all of those things, proper latch, all of those different things. Formulas can be overwhelming. There's a lot of different ones. And so we provide all of that, both the hands-on information and also the information of resources, either in formats like this or links that we can send you to. And then there's the practical support. I've listened to many of your talks and it's like, oh, what do we drop? What do we forget about? And that's where that postpartum doula comes in. You know, we're there. Like if the baby's laundry needs to be done, you know, some of us will do that. I find, again, it varies from postpartum doulas, and they will explain in their contract what they do and what they don't do. But, you know, I've prepped meals. I mean, our job is to get you well, the birth parent, to nourish you and help with snacks and make sure you've got the water and help with feeding the baby if you're just not up to it that day, if you've transitioned into solids. So these are all the things we do. What we don't do is we are not babysitters. Some of us, they might have a special thing in their contract where they can be left with the baby. But in our scope of practice, you're traditionally home when we are there. But it's nice. It still means you can go and have a yoga session online. You can still exercise. You can still sleep, all of those things, or you can spend time with your partner. Just knowing that you have a professional taking care of your baby. Other things is that some of the postpartum doulas, they do overnight. Some don't. That's something that you just have to ask doulas. And some of the scope, they'll have a scope of practice specific for postpartum, but some of them also have other areas of expertise. And those are things that you just need to ask them. And those will all be listed in their contract. What we are not is we are not counselors. We are an empathetic listening ear. We're here to listen. Sometimes I find that my clients, they just want to talk. They just want someone that is non-judgmental to sit there and listen to what they're going through and how they're feeling. You know, I have parents say, I'm doing one thing and my partner's doing another, and is that okay? It's just creating that environment to basically build their confidence and give them all the resources that they need to make an informed decision for themselves, for their baby, and for the partners, for the whole family, because it really is, it's not just one, it's everybody is part of this new life, this new life change.
Yes, and I find like when you're speaking, I think it's so important because there's so many immigrant families in Canada and
Yes.
families who are alone with the baby. They don't have extended family. And it is like as much as we read before, bringing the baby home, even a term baby, is very challenging. Like we don't expect that. We expect everything to be, it's smooth sailing. Okay, my baby's going to latch, my baby's going to breastfeed, but we forget there are bumps along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And the recovery of the birth itself is not easy for every birth parent. Some parents go through more challenge than other parents. So I think there's such an important role that I was actually very surprised to know that even existed. I wish I knew that when I had my first son 12 years ago, that I was pretty much alone and I had to fly my mom from Brazil to stay with us. And
yes.
I remember many days I was breastfeeding my son and my mom was spoon feeding me. And I think it's so needed, right? Everybody says it takes a village to raise a child, and absolutely does. And I think this is a great role. But you talked to me also about getting some meals ready, going to grocery stores, because this is also something that for families, new families, this sometimes can also be overwhelming, right? Like how
it can be, yeah. And that varies with postpartum doulas. Some will do full meals, some don't. It really depends. It's really important to understand that not every doula is the same and might not be the right match for you. So it's really a good idea. I mean, this is someone that you're going to trust and bring into your home or virtually chat with them. And you've got to feel confident. You got to feel comfortable. We do not in any way bring our parenting. You had mentioned that I am a parent. That is not our role. We're not telling you how to parent your child. We're just giving you all the resources so that you can do that. But yes, I've done that where, we get all the snacks prepped and then you've got them in little nice containers so that when you're up at 1 a.m. in the morning, you can take that upstairs and you can have like a little cooler. I've had clients that have had coolers in their bedroom, both for the bottles and for their own snacks and for their water. And so they're all set up for the night. I've had things where I've called clients beforehand and said, I'm on my way. Would you like me to bring you a coffee?
Wow, that is really nice.
Because as you said, I actually had my first child in Seattle, Washington, and it was very isolating with no family. Not being able to wake up in the morning and realize I've had an awful day. And I need somebody to come. And some doulas, they might have that you can just call them that day, and if they're available, they'll come. Others, they want set times, so that varies between postpartum doulas. But there are many families that don't have support in those first couple of months, and that's really, there's many birth parents that feel that they should do all. And that's very hard on your body to be able to try to continue pre-baby life and now deal with your recovery. And postpartum's having them there just makes your recovery, move along a little smoother because you can actually focus on yourself and not feel any shame or guilt, not focusing 100% on baby because you have a professional that's doing that so that you and your partner can care for yourselves.
Right. So, Sherri, let's talk about families who are in the NICU because it's a little bit different giving birth and after a day or 2 days, or even if you have a C-section, you stay a little longer in the hospital and you bring your baby home. For families who had a preterm baby or families who had a sick baby who required NICU care, those families can spend days, months in the NICU. So how would that work? Because I assume you wouldn't go to the NICU, but also it's not, in my own experience, it's so overwhelming. And we have so many professions around us. How that work that when family goes home? Is that when you would pick up a family?
Well, it's really up to the family's choice, but my feeling, I have not worked with a preemie family at this stage, but there are postpartum doulas that have done so, and I've done a fair amount of research on premature babies and all of those things that your families go through, and really, again, as I said, it's you're going to come home sometimes. You're going to need care. You're going to be drained. You're not going to want to have to deal with some of the things. I've come in and my clients have said, I haven't even gotten to the kitchen. And, that seems like a really simple thing, but it's just one thing you don't have to think about, that you can just take it away. And the other thing too is with a professional, it's important to know that we are up to date on everything. I mean, even after I had my second child, 6 years after my first one, I had a public nurse come in and she goes, I don't want to offend you. I know you've done this before, but things have changed. And, because I had the bumpers in the crib. Well, we don't do that anymore. I had the little wedges so that my daughter didn't roll back and forth. And so the postpartum doulas, before you come home, as I said, we can sit with you in the house. We can understand the different things that, your child may need. We can talk about where we can get those sort of things. We can start to think about how we're going to deal with meals. I like to talk to the partners and say, have you discussed your roles? Who's going to be doing what? It causes a lot of tension when you come home. And all of a sudden, you're like the laundry's building up and nobody's doing it. And so it's to get rid of the anxiety, the fear, the frustration, all of those feelings that you might have. The other thing, too, that's really important for a postpartum doula is that we know the warning signs. We've been trained to understand what the maternal warning signs are and the infant warning signs so that we can say to you, you know what? I'm noticing this. I'm a non-medical professional, but I would highly recommend that you reach out to your healthcare provider because I'm seeing some of the warning signs in yourself, in your partner, and within your infant. And when you're tired, sometimes you don't notice those things. The other thing too is beforehand, you may be going to a lot of appointments and schedules that you have to get all in order, and figuring out medication and all of those different things. And a postpartum doula, they can do that. They can, everybody's different, but ask your postpartum doula. Say, I'm overwhelmed. I've got this schedule. I don't want to miss any. I really want to feel prepared. They'll sit down and they'll make a schedule with you. They'll sit down and they'll talk to you about your hospital plan. Understand if you have any equipment like the oxygen that you need to bring home. Many doulas ask if they have their first aid. I have my first aid with infant CPR. Make sure that they have that formal training. Because that's very important. But the other component that's absolutely huge, and especially with premature babies, but all babies, is the sleep deprivation and the napping. And again, we have an understanding of safe sleep situations, both in the bassinet and in the crib. We've been trained in that. But, if we find that we just can't get the napping rhythm going, or we're finding that there's inconsistencies, we'll refer you out to a sleep consultant if we feel that's necessary. If we're having problems with breastfeeding, we've tried all the positions, we've gotten your latching, all of that, we'll refer you out to a lactation consultant. But really, before the baby comes home, is to focus on the two parents and get you ready. So many people do so much planning before baby comes, getting the things that we need and all of those sort of things, but there's no planning for after. And it's kind of unique in that the premature babies, you can start to do that and recover. And then when baby comes home, have that confidence to feel that you're ready. I mean, you've got such a lifeline at the hospital. It's just nice to know that when you get home, there's still a non-medical professional that can continue to support you there.
That is amazing. My question to you is, you mentioned a little bit about the parents adjusting to parenthood. It's going to do the laundry's piling up. And then obviously we come home from the ICU, and usually one parent spends most of the time in the ICU, especially now during COVID. The other parent sometimes is not even allowed into the unit for the same amount of time. And then you come home, and then you bring this fragile baby at home, or the perceived fragile baby at home. And then you have to adjust to this new life with the baby who spends so much time in the ICU. And now you have the parenthood to adjust if it's your first time parenting, or even if it's your second time, is a different ballgame, bringing a NICU baby home. So how do you help parents to adjust? Because it's a very stressful time, right? There's a lot of anxiety bringing this baby home, especially if it's the winter time. There's a lot of viruses out in the community. And I'm not even talking about COVID, because there's other viruses that are more severe for our babies, like RSV. So how do you help the parents to adjust to this new environment?
Well, the first thing I want to mention, Fabiana, is that ask your doula, postpartum doula, if they put a workplace safety plan in place. That's something that I have done. And again, it gives you the reassurance to know that, you know, the sanitation is done, the clothes that I bring are brought in a Ziploc bag, I change there, so that you have that confidence to know that we're not bringing any germs in. Our contracts are specific that say if either of us are sick, we won't come. So I just want to throw that out to your community to know that you just make sure that your postpartum doula has put those safeties in place before they come in, because there is fear and anxiety of bringing a stranger into your home. The support for the life transition, you may still be pumping. That is hard work, both mentally and physically on your body. Doesn't always work. I had such a difficult time pumping with my children. And it's hard because your baby's not there too. Sometimes it's easier to pump when you see them, you feel them, and you smell them. So that's really what we do, is we create your environment. Again, as I said before, is that we set everything up so that you feel confident bringing that baby home, to feel that they're safe. And again, one thing with the premature babies is temperature, and all of the babies is sleep. I mean, it's very, very scary for any parent, and I can only imagine what a parent of a premature goes through. But it's very scary to figure out how to actually go and rest and truly turn off your mind. And just knowing that you have a professional that's sitting in the house and watching that baby constantly, well, you can just take that break, because you need that break, to be able to produce the type of milk that you want to, or be able to formula feed on a regular basis. It's still exhausting to do the formula feeding, because you're still prepping, you're washing bottles. Those can all be done by your postpartum doula. Most of my clients, they don't do that until I'm gone, because it's, again, sterilizing them, making sure that the formula, you're tired. We can pre-make some of those formulas before we leave, so that you've got them in the fridge for your night feeding. So those sort of things, it's just to take some of the responsibility off your plates so that you can focus on you, because your wellness really is going to affect everybody else. I always say a happy parent equals a happy baby.
Absolutely. It is very true. Sherri, let's talk a little bit about mental health, because you talked about, the red flags that you can send referrals, and knowing that an ICU parents have gone through a traumatic experience. we are higher risk of having postpartum depression, PTSD. Yes. So what do you watch for?
Well, what we do in what postpartums know is they're familiar with all the different type of mental, the mood disorders that might occur. People call them different things. The baby blues, the postpartum depression, more severe, the psychosis. And two, the thing that we're also trained to know is that what the warning signs that you see with the birth parent might be different than what you see for the partner, either a partner that is female or male or transgender. Their experience, their depression might look a little different. And so many of us have put to work together kits. So in my situation, I have in my consultation package, I have a whole bunch of resources for you. And then once you become a client, I have a whole section just on mood, on depression. And it breaks it down so that you know the signs, because it's very important, not for only us as observers that are coming in well rested and not tired, being able to see it. It's also important that both parents, if there are two or even a single mom or a father, that they know the signs. And so as postpartum doulas, that's something we even before the baby comes home from the NICU, is we would educate you as to what those signs are. And many times, you know, you've talked in your previous talks that the percentage of paternal depression is really high. And sometimes it might occur because the mother is going through depression and it's affecting the partner. Or it might not. I mean, the birth parent can not have depression at all, but the father or the father figure or the other partner, they might have depression. And they can look different. You know, it's the lack of appetite can be with both. Just the feeling of overwhelmed can be with both. But you might find like the partner is staying at work and just not coming home on a regular basis, you know? Those sort of things, the anger, the clashing between each other, you know, but there's those warning signs that we know when someone says, you know, today I got so angry that I just wanted to shake the baby. You know, those sort of things, you see it. And things when they're not taking care of themselves. Oh no, I've got to get everything done for the baby. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And you know, I'm not important and those sort of things. And then you see the anxiety. The biggest thing that I do in my job is I basically say, you're doing a good job. Sometimes you just need to be told that you're awesome. You're doing a fabulous job. And if they're comfortable, you know, we say, do you need a hug? Sometimes you just need a hug. Sometimes you need someone just to say, you know, I'm thinking about all these different things. My baby's not feeding. I don't know. Should I go to a chiropractor? Is their neck not straight? Is it, you know, is it my milk's not coming down? And it's basically someone to say, okay, let's step back and look at everything we're doing. And let's evaluate, see, you know, what's working and what's not. And same thing, I do a sleep log with my clients. And so we keep track of things. Infant development, I keep a log of everything and how things are going. But with the mental, the biggest part that's important that postpartums do, and parents don't have time for this. You're given all that information when you leave the hospital. You've read books beforehand. They all have different opinions. It's that postpartum doula going through all that information, pulling out the information that is important now in your moment, and educating you on those moods so that if you see it in your partner, you can say, you know, you can reach out to your postpartum doula and say, Sherri, I'm really concerned. You know, my wife, she's not eating regularly and I'm making her meals and, you know, baby blues, I understand she'll be sad and the hormones for those first 2 weeks are going up and down and the baby blues are very common. But, you know, we're into like a month later and I'm still seeing a lot of that. You know, can you refer us to somebody? And the other thing a postpartum does is, we try to prevent some of that. We try to help you with your anxiety because we have it. You question yourself constantly. You're always nervous. And with preterm babies, you're worried they're going to get sick. And so you're very, very nervous about everything, And we do a lot of safety within the house. We look at your stairs, and we talk about your stairs and your change table and your cribs. And, I had one client that I said to her, I think she was hitting about, probably about 6 or 8 months. So sooner or later, we were going to get into crawling. And I said to her, we were sitting on the floor, and I said to her, you know what? I said, sit here and just look around. She was like, why? And I said, because you need to see from their perspective. So you need to see your room and think of what's not safe and what is safe, all of those sort of things. So the postpartum, when it comes doula, really is to educate you on those sort of, to inform you on those different types of warning. And same thing with the babies. I mean, it's very important, especially with premature babies. You've been given a hospital plan. You've been told what feeding your schedules you're supposed to do. Then you have that nervousness to change it. So sometimes it's nice to talk to a non-medical professional and say, I'm ready to go. And it's nice for someone to say, you're doing well. Look at your baby. Look at the skin color. Look how healthy they are, and they're sleeping well and they're gaining weight. And it's nice. You don't have to go out of the house. You've taken them to the doctor. They've told you. I've still had parents that have had their babies taken to the doctor. They've gone to breast clinics and had them weighed after feeding, but they still need to hear.
Absolutely.
They're doing a really good job.
Absolutely important. And I think that identifying the signs, I think, is very important. And it is a way for us to end the stigma around mental health and normalize that, yes, parents do experience all that, and when it's okay to look for help. So, Sherri, before you wrap it up, I want to ask you, how can parents find the doula? I know you have this website here, and I'm also going to share my screen here because you have some resources for families. And if you want to talk about it, where to find a doula in different provinces in Canada.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously the first one is word of mouth, friends, family, colleagues, and parenting groups. I mean, again, as I said before, it's trust and confidence. It's nice to ask somebody that's already had a postpartum doula. But remember, it's just like childcare. That person might not work for you. So it's really good to do your research to find out what training they've had. There is no particular set training that is done by the doulas. We all are part of different associations, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. And your doctor might know, and your midwife might know, but that's not necessarily the case. They don't have a list to give you. Your hospital, also I should have put down that they may know doulas in the area, postpartum doulas that are available. Your birth doula might not also be a postpartum doula. Some are both, birth and postpartum. And they've also made connections in the community and would know a postpartum doula. The doula associations, they are different ones in different provinces. The doulas are not required to join them. When I refer to a collective website, that might be a group of doulas that have gotten together and created a website so that you can find maybe 6 of them in one place. Or they've created an agency where they have a variety of them to choose from, so that you might have a birth one and a postpartum one, and you might have one that does night time. So those are available to them. When I did the research for this talk today, I found a lot of the doula associations were using, when you went in to find a doula, a lot of them were using the doulamatch.net app. It was connected to their association. I'm in Ontario, so we have the Association of Ontario Doulas. So those sort of things are all available to you. the internet, simple, Postpartum Doula Oakville, Postpartum Doula Vancouver. Those sort of things will come up in your search, either on the website, Instagram, or Facebook. You will find them there. But I think the parenting groups really is a really good one to chat with, because it's nice, and because they can tell you, this is what worked and this is what didn't, and I wish they had done this for me, and I wish I'd asked that. So when I did search, Fabiana had asked me to see which ones were to get in the different provinces. These were the ones that I was able to find. That doesn't mean there aren't others. And I reached out to my community. I'm training with Doula Canada. And many of them had said, oh, you forgot about this one and that one. So they do exist out there. On the bottom, you'll see that the doula training, they have directories too. They might not necessarily be up to date all the time. We have Donna, that's out of the United States, that does doula training. We have Doula Canada, that's here in Canada. Kappa, it is also another organization. It stands for Birth and Postpartum Professionals Association. That's also based out of the United States. So they also have directories to many of their doulas, birth and postpartum, that have trained under their organization.
Right.
And as I said, the training all varies. So make sure you ask. I mean, I have 2 years to complete my certification. It's a lot of information. And so do ask them where they got their training and what other training they might have. So they might have 2 scopes, like a scope of practice for a postpartum doula and an EC, or a lactation consultant, or a sleep consultant. So you need to find out about their training, because we are not registered. We're not in a registered industry. So it's very important to make sure that you inquire about the training and ask about preterm if they've had any experience or training.
So I'm just going to encourage people to take a screenshot, because there's a lot of great websites there. Sherri, one last comment. I'm also sharing here your contact if people want to get in touch with you or ask you any question. But quickly, before we wrap it up, this is not covered by the provincial government, but you mentioned that a lot of insurance companies cover this service. So talk to us a little bit about that for people who are interested in learning.
Yeah, so unlike a doctor and a midwife where it's covered through OHIP, postpartum doulas, or doulas in general, are not covered, the OHIP being our Ontario one. A lot of them are not, from my understanding. I can only obviously address Ontario because that's where I work. So please inquire within your different provinces and territories as to if they're, because it's constantly changing. We are trying to advocate for it, Fabiana, that because we're letting them know it's a service that's needed, and not everybody can afford it. The range is sort of starts at 25, might go higher, might go lower, depending on the services that are offered or the expertise. $25 to $30 an hour, depending where you are located. Could be 50 in some of the cities. But the important thing that I tell my clients is to check your insurance plan. See what they cover. They vary so drastically, the insurance coverage, as you know, as you're looking for different things to cover as you bring your preterm baby home. Ask them about those sort of things. And maybe it's something that the community connections that your postpartum doula suggests for you. Maybe some of those things are covered. It really varies from insurance plan. But at this point, we are not registered like the early childhood educators. So we're not registered by a governing body. So really my last notes are just do your research, make sure it's a right fit, make sure that they have the training to make you feel confident that they're providing you a safe environment for yourself and for the rest of your family and your baby.
Okay, Sherri, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us. It's so important that families, as you said, I was in Seattle with no support. So I know that it would be really nice to know that there is somebody out there, that you don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely.
And you're not judged by bringing help in. It doesn't make you a lesser parent or anything. That, you know, it's great. It just helps everybody in the long run enjoy those first 8 months. As one client said to me, she said, you know, you made what was known to be the most difficult first 8 months, you made them enjoyable, because I was able to rest and focus on me and the baby. And, you know, and that just makes you feel all good inside. I mean, that's why postpartum doulas and birth doulas, that's why we do it, because it's amazing to come in and see that mom's shoulders just drop and the smile come on and they're happy to see you. So it's a very rewarding profession.
That is wonderful, Sherri. Thank you so much for teaching us, for educating us on this important resource for families. I'm very grateful that you reached out to us and really gave me a full lesson on that. I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Fabiana. I really enjoyed following your organization, and I've let many doulas know you've got to go to this organization. They have fabulous resources available to our industry to keep us up to date too. So it's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to all of you watching us from the hospital or home on our Facebook channel, our Facebook page or YouTube channel, thank you for joining us here today. The video of today's session and all the videos from our live sessions are available on the CPBF website, which is right here, thecanadianpreemies.org. I also want to thank our sponsors, AstraZeneca and Water Wives, for their ongoing support to our education sessions. And we are a charitable organization, and we believe that through education and support, we can empower families, ensuring they are ready to care for their premature babies. Please visit our website, consider making a donation. Together, we can create a brighter future for all our families. And I see you again next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you and stay well.